Hi everyone, and welcome to another episode of Radiant Central, and I'm your host Natasha St. Michael, and thank you so much for joining me. So yesterday I did a video showing how to open up a mature coconut, one of these brown coconuts over here, and today I'm going to show you how to make coconut cream out of the meat of the mature coconut. So as you can see here, this is the inside of a mature coconut, and this is the meat, the fresh meat of it, and I'm going to show you today how to make coconut milk and also fresh coconut cream by grating the coconut meat and soaking it and making coconut milk or coconut cream. Very, very easy. And once you know how to do it, and if you can get fresh coconuts, way better to do this than to use coconut cream or coconut milk from the can. Rather have something that's fresh, it's way tastier, and I would say it'd have way more nutritional benefits if you're doing it fresh. So let's get started. We're going to be making 500 milliliters, which is 2 cups of coconut milk. So what you're going to need is half of a mature coconut. So as you can see, this is definitely a mature coconut, very thick, the coconut meat. And we'll need 500 milliliters of warm water, or 2 cups of warm water. We'll need something to grate the coconut. So you can either use a standard grater like this, or if you are ever in Southeast Asia or in countries that grow coconut, a lot of times they'll have sort of like a handmade grater, and this is like a traditional tool that they use. And I'll show you up close. If you can see, it's got little nails that stick out, and that's what they use to grate the coconut. So if ever you're able to find something like this, this is, I find, easier to use than one of the graters. It's bigger. And it's specifically made to grate the coconut. And what you'll need is something to strain the coconut milk after we've grated it and soaked it, and then we strain it out to have a fine coconut milk. So either you can use a fine mesh strainer like this, or you can use a nut milk bag, which is just a nylon bag that we'll use to strain out the coconut milk. The first step is to grate the coconut. So you're going to just take a piece of coconut and you're going to grate it. So here's a bunch of it grated. I'm just going to show you what it looks like up close. So as you can see, it's finely grated down into like thin little pieces. And you're going to continue grating the coconut. I am going to show you how it's done with the traditional tool, just for those that are interested in using something a little bit different, in case you do find something like this. And grate it that way. And so pretty much you're going to grate the entire half of the coconut. So here we have our freshly grated coconut, and we'll just get a little bit closer. So there you see it, and now we're going to get started to actually make the coconut milk. So what you'll want to do is transfer the grated fresh coconut to a large bowl, and then you're going to pour over 2 cups or 500 milliliters of warm drinking water. If you want really super sweet coconut milk, you can always use the coconut water. That you can use for, I guess, like smoothies, things like that. But if you are using the coconut milk for a curry or things like that, like any kind of savory dish, you'll want to use regular water and not the coconut water, because the coconut water is too sweet. So it'll make really too sweet coconut milk that won't be good for any kind of savory dish. But for a smoothie, it could be perfectly fine. And so you're going to just put plain drinking water into this, and you're going to massage it with your hand. And just rub the water into it, because the more that the liquids is rubbed into the shredded coconut, the more it's going to release the oils and the coconut juice into the water. And so you're going to massage it into the water, and then you can let it sit. And you can let it sit for 10 minutes, 20 minutes, an hour, however long you want. And you can keep massaging it so that the water and the liquids breaks down the grated coconut and gets all the good stuff dissolved into the water. So I've let this sit here to soak for about half an hour, and now I'm going to massage it for a few minutes. So I'm just going to be squeezing the liquid through the grated coconut. Now we're going to get ready to strain it. So I'm going to just show you how to strain it with a fine mesh strainer, and then I'll show you how to strain it with a nut milk bag. I find it much faster and easier to strain it with a nut milk bag, but if you don't have one, I'll show you how to do it with a strainer. Okay, so you just would scoop it in and fill up the strainer, and as you can see, the liquids is passing through. And then with a spoon, you just press it down. Here's how you would strain it with a nut milk bag. So a nut milk bag is just a very fine nylon bag. Okay, and you would just fill the bag up with the coconut. I'm just gonna do a small amount just to show you. There, see it's pouring out, and you would just squeeze it. You can do this even with like a sock, I mean, or even like an old t-shirt, anything that's clean, that is finely woven, so that there's no fibers that pass through it. Okay, and you just squeeze out the liquids, and then you would discard the coconut pulp. Okay, you no longer need it, or what you can do is actually reuse it. You can reuse it one more time, but what you're going to get from it is like a super skin coconut milk, you know, so it's sort of like the difference between a whole milk and a skim milk. If you use the coconut pulp again and soak it in water and do the whole process over again, you'll just get a thinner coconut milk, but that's something you can do one more time. So here's our coconut milk, and it's made about 2.5 cups or about 600 milliliters of coconut milk. Now, this is actual coconut milk, but I'm going to show you how to make coconut cream if you want to make coconut cream. Pretty much all you do is one more step. So if you were to use the coconut milk as is right now, you can go ahead and do so. But if you want coconut cream, what you would do is just leave this out, room temperature, still, don't stir it or anything. Leave it for about, I would say at least a half an hour at room temperature. You can leave it up to an hour. And what's going to happen, and I'll show you, is that it will gradually start separating, and you'll get more of the fatty stuff on top and then more of the thinner non-fat stuff on the bottom. And so I'll show you after this is sat out for a good 30 minutes what the difference is, and then whatever's sort of rising to the top would be the coconut cream, and then what's on the bottom is more coconut water or skim coconut milk. So here's our coconut milk. I let it sit for about an hour, and as you can see, there's a line right over here. And so the top here is coconut cream, and the bottom here is sort of the equivalent of skim milk. So let's say like a recipe is calling for coconut milk. You wouldn't let it sit. You would do what we did before of grating the fresh coconut and making the milk out of it, and you would just use it straight. But let's say a recipe is calling for coconut cream. What you would do is let it sit for an hour and use this stuff on the top. And so you would just scoop it out with a spoon. I'll show you. So here I'm scooping the cream out with a spoon, and so it's pretty thick. This itself is coconut cream, and the bottom is coconut skim milk. So again, if you had a recipe that's calling for coconut cream, use the top, and then the skim milk stuff, you can not throw it away, but I would just use it for something more like a smoothie or something. Just throw it in there, or you can even use it in your coffee or tea, something like that. But it's a much lighter form of skim milk, and you can even use it in like a curry or something. It'll just be more soupy. So that was super easy. And tomorrow I'm going to do a video showing how to actually make the coconut cream using a juicer, which is obviously much faster, but most people don't have juicers. So if you don't, do it the grated way. But tomorrow I will show you how to do it with a juicer, which is a much faster process. And in upcoming videos, I'm going to show you how to make coconut ice cream and also an Indonesian coconut curry, a yellow curry. So stay tuned for some upcoming videos making some yummy food. All right, have a super fabulous day, everyone, and I'll see you again tomorrow. Bye.